Welcome to how.
Go ahead.
Welcome to how to be a humane leader without losing your job. Dive deep into humane leadership crafted for today's fast-paced business world. Listen to our podcast on all major streaming platforms and join us as we explore the essence of humane leadership in today's dynamic business landscape. I'm Chris Ollerking, a Fortune 100 IT leader, alongside Roberto Torres, a seasoned startup engineering leader. Today, we will discuss how a humane leader prepares for an unknown crisis ahead of time. Hey, Roberto, how's it going?
It's very well, man. Thank you very much. How are you?
Well, hopefully things will be going smoother now that we're well connected to each other with all kinds of new technology. So we'll see how the meeting goes.
Rock.
So preparing for a crisis, an unknown crisis ahead of time, and I guess in my experience in business, there were actually very few unknowns. It's not per se that they're unknown. The unknown part was usually is when is it going to happen? Sooner or later, a hurricane comes, a big snowstorm collapses a roof somewhere, or there's a company or economic downturn and the company has a downturn and there's a layoff, or there's always a crisis that, yeah, it's unknown when it'll happen, but it's possible that it can happen. And I found as a humane leader, being very honest with my team members about unknown crises, like what will our response be to the unknown crisis, was very helpful in having them prepare. And I'll start with an example because I know it's hurricane season. We've had a few low-grade hurricanes hit the United States already. What we did is we had disaster recovery crisis plans. And so when a hurricane hit our Orange, Texas facility, the city name is Orange, we were prepared. We had talked about what could possibly happen. What would our response be to try and settle the nerves of the team that would be responding? We knew the general direction of the hurricane was coming from, and we talked about that. Look, if we have to go do this, here's the situation. Air conditioning probably won't be working. We're going to have to truck in food and water. You're likely going to need to stay in a hotel that could be 2-hour drive away because once the hurricane, where it hits, there may be no power there. And in reality, of course, the hurricane did hit there and it shut down our plant. And we actually weren't able to go in and start on disaster recovery for almost 3 weeks because FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management, you wouldn't let anybody in except residents for quite a while. So we weren't able to start our disaster recovery for a bit. But we had talked to all the different team members from all over the country that were going to come in and prepare them for what is the situation going to look like. There's going to be bulldozed piles of debris. There could be dead animals, cattle and things just laying on the side of the road because they haven't had time to clean it up. It is not going to look normal. And I think in preparing people for a crisis, using the hurricane as an example, if you talk frankly and honestly about these kinds of things up front, and you're open and honest and answer their questions, they're much more prepared when the actual crisis occurs.
Yeah. Thanks for the example. And I totally agree that we had to prepare our team for an upcoming crisis that they might not know, but we know. And usually that happens when we have a all hands meeting in which maybe the business, the CFO might tell us we're not doing well with our numbers. We haven't reached our objectives. There is more burning than earning money. So I think preparing the team by conveying this message, it will help. But what I think is more important is to not bring fear when there shouldn't be fear. What I mean is prices exist with every company, the smallest one to the biggest one. And we had to differentiate the crisis that really, really affect the business and will affect our team versus the ones that are mild, the ones that maybe to be a breeze, that will have an impact, not a big one, rather than the one that will have a direct approach, direct hit to us. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And having those conversations, we've many episodes where we've had our humane leadership discussions. We've talked about communication, and there can be different strategies with it. I don't believe in fear mongering, right? We don't want to, hey, the company's doing terrible things might happen. That's fear mongering, right? Instead, we should have honest conversations about what could happen, what should we do, how can we prepare, how do we, and that's just good humane communication and leadership to prepare our employees for any crisis, any crisis. So if it's the economic downturn, if it's a huge snowstorm, if it's a huge hurricane, we should have honest and open discussions to do our best to help the employees manage their fears, and also us to set expectations. So for instance, if, let's use your economic downturn example. Hey, the company's burning more than earning. I like that phrase. We're burning more than we're earning. So we're going to need to cut a little bit on the burning. And that might mean we're going to have to consolidate some roles, or maybe it means we're not going to reduce the number of people, but that 2 open headcount where we were going to get some relief on the service desk so you didn't have to carry the pager every single weekend, we're not going to be able to do that. So prepare them for the expectation that, I promised you'd only have, pager duty. I don't know if they call it that in Mexico. We used to carry whoever was on call if the servers crashed. We used to call it pager duty, even long after we got rid of pagers, right? It's who had the cell phone that had to do 7x24 support. We would rotate that duty. Well, be honest with your team. Hey, you know what? We lost the approval for those 2 headcounts. So the rotation for after hours support is going to stay the same as it is now. Be honest. Tell them that, because if they're suddenly expecting that they're going to have some relief, and you cover it up, and they find out later, hey, I was planning on taking more vacations and catching up with my kid more, and now I find out I'm going to be on pager duty every other weekend for another year. I'll be very disappointed in my humane leader for not telling me that up front when the decision was made 2 months ago. Here, I've been hoping you were going to hire somebody, and you just buried the news and didn't tell me. Never hide things like that, because your employees, again, no matter whether it's a big company or a small company, your employees talk to each other, maybe even outside other departments. So if that information got shared with the finance department, sooner or later, your IT department person's having coffee with somebody from the finance department, and your IT person saying, hey, gosh, I can't wait till we hire that person so I can finally go to my kid's ball game. And the finance person says, what are you talking about? That headcount got canceled 2 months ago. Oh boy, you're going to have a tough time being a humane leader, explaining that news.
Yeah, the thing is, the most amount of money burned in every company, it ain't servers, it ain't software, it is payroll. So they're going to cut directly to that. And one thing, when you mentioned pager, it's important for our younger audiences that device used to be really set up on the 90s. So that's something that maybe today won't say maybe pager duty, but it will say maybe mobile duty. But in the end, telling the truth is more than important. Why? Because you cannot hold everybody in the team and do not let them to listen to other sources. They will know about this. And when they know about this, if they have the type of true and robust communication by us, they will not feel wary about the situation. They will have the resilience and their tolerance to frustration higher because we have taught them that, because we have built them those soft skills. If they do not have it, if they have it, they will have it higher. And external view news won't affect them, because one of the things that I have seen that affects most people are rumors, and rumors are not hard data based. They could be created by someone who wants to do some hurt or want to make them tremble. But I think that talking with a team and taking away the rumors and maybe giving hard facts will allow them to be prepared, as we have discussed.
Absolutely. And to address the rumors head on is what a humane leader does, right? Because the humane leader is going to hear some rumors too. No matter where you are in the hierarchy of the company, there are maybe different rumors, but there are rumors. And it's kind of like politics. If you lie a lot, sooner or later you get caught. And so a humane leader can't get caught in a lie, because once you've done, your credibility is gone. You're no longer a humane leader. And getting your humane leader title back will take you a very long time. So it's much better to be honest and open and confront those things in the crisis, so that your employees know that they can come to you and get guidance on what should they do, what can they do, what things are within their control, and be prepared. I mean, a crisis that you're completely unprepared for, regardless of the kind, financial, hurricane, snowstorm, disaster, server failures, whatever they are, to just deny their possibility and not discuss how are we going to respond to that crisis just makes their anxiety go up. But to openly discuss, what are we going to do if the server crashes? What are we going to do if our server room has a fire? What are we going to do if there's layoffs? What are we going to do if the economy turns down? What is the strategy? What are the actions? Having open and honest discussions about those kinds of things helps your employees feel empowered to prepare. And that's what a humane leader does, is you're not babying your employees. You're helping them learn how to cope with the real world. Because in the real world, crisis happens. That's just what happens, right? You know, whether it's a natural event like a hurricane, whether it's a political event like riots in downtown Portland, Washington, Portland, Oregon. Prepare for that. What are you going to do? Well, if we have a big outage because there's a riot in Chicago, we're going to switch our servers to the hot data center in New York. And to do that, that means the entire team's going to need to come in. And so, team, be prepared for that crisis. Sure, watch the news, be concerned that these kinds of violent things are happening, but what is it we as a team are going to do? Well, Steve is going to declare the disaster with our disaster recovery company. Susan, you're going to start getting the service desk notified that we're going to have an outage of 1 hour while we switch the servers to our hot site, and have your plan worked out. And that helps your team feel comfortable, even though a riot is a terrible thing, a hurricane is a terrible thing. You've gone through your plans of what you're going to do. You've reassured your team that they're capable of doing it. We've practiced it. They'll be okay in the crisis. If it's a layoff and some of the team gets impacted, it's going to hurt. But you've talked to the team up front about what we're going to do, what the plan is, and it takes some of that uncertainty away. You can never eliminate all uncertainty in a crisis. But good crisis management from a humane leader is talking about what's realistic, what can we do to manage that stress, and work through with the team. And different teams, depending on their experience in these different kinds of crises, they may have some good suggestions that you don't have as the humane leader because you haven't been through that particular crisis. You know, for me, for example, I did go through a hurricane recovery. So I will have some experiences that I can share with the team about what is it like? What is it like driving in to this zone of destruction so that you're prepared visually for what you're going to see? Because I'll tell you, it's pretty disturbing.
I can imagine. You mentioned three key words, three key powerful words. The first one was anxiety. Anxiety basically is foreseeing future scenarios that might be disastrous. And with that, your mind will work and you will feel bad. That's what anxiety does. The second one is proactive. If you're being proactive, you will mitigate that anxiety. And the thing is about being proactive is that you will set specific tasks to the team. If you do that, bless you, if you do that, it will help you ease down your mind and let the anxiety go away. That's amazing. The third one is by providing an example of the situation. You know, a situation that will crumble your nerves, that will shake away everything that you have. If you could convey that message that any situation as bad as it could turn, you could handle it, and you could be more of managing that situation rather than running and doesn't know what to do. It will take away that bad feeling. So I think it's an amazing example. And I think that we as humane leaders had to be, first of all, calm. Second of all, understand which members of our team will go to the anxiety spectrum rather than the ones that wouldn't, and maybe creating a coordination team in which we could help those members who wouldn't. I remember that, and you know, as maybe as a lifeguard, you know that when, in this case, a hurricane strikes, there will be some people who will be hurt versus the ones who wouldn't. I remember once that I spoke with a Red Cross manager, and he told me that when they go to a site where something bad happened, they usually tag people with different colors and say, black ones are the ones that we won't do anything because they were really bad, versus maybe yellow, green, and everything. So we have, in this case, we won't tag people, but we will recognize the ones that could be maybe having a big crisis within them, and we go with them to ease them, to talk, to have active listening with them, and to ask our team members who might be calmer and who could have a higher soft skills and emotional intelligence high, to talk to other teams, and maybe when the situations arises, maybe we could have a better solution.
Exactly. Because ultimately, until the event unfolds, you can never know for sure what you're going to confront, and you can never know for sure how people are going to react. And so some of it is, you know, that pre-preparing, as you're saying, like, you know, identify team members who you think might be more stressed about it, work with them a little bit more, but be prepared in the crisis for what coaching skills you're going to need to apply to anybody, because that calm, cool, collected guy in the corner you thought was going to be, you know, just steady, he's the one running around, everything's terrible. So what are you going to do in that situation? So again, as the humane leader, sometimes some of your plans are just for you personally to think about the scenarios where, okay, I need to, take that person aside, talk to them calmly, and give them a very simple task to focus on because they're clearly panicking. They're getting overstressed. So work on just this smaller task. Still needs to get done, but it's much simpler. That way they can focus on that, reduces their anxiety, and you can proceed to solve some of the other things in the crisis that you need to do. As a humane leader, you never know when the crisis is going to come up, but the humane leader thinks about all different kinds of crises and does some kind of preparing for every crisis that they think they can potentially encounter, whether it's financial, whether it's natural disaster, whether it's just purposeful destruction. These days, people are sabotaging things, purposely burning down buildings, all kinds of crazy things going on in this world. And the only way to really manage that kind of anxiety as a humane leader is have plans. They don't always need to be formal written things like you need to have a disaster recovery plan for your company, but there's some of that plan is unwritten, which is the personal coaching that the humane leader does to prepare people for all the different possibilities.
Yeah, let me tell you a something that happened to my family 10 years ago. And before I do that, it's okay for a humane leader to feel worried about a situation, to not know what to do, but to remain calm and then do something else. 10 years ago, on 31st, December 31st of 2014, my dad went to the hospital. He got 1 month before that. He hit his head with a table, marble table. So certain situations were affecting his mobility and everything. On December 31st, we were going to gather to, have New Year's Eve dinner and everything, but he went to the hospital. And then they have their head scans and everything, and they saw that they had to have a surgery of his brain immediately. So we were, my mom, my sisters, my son, my nephews, everybody we were really, really shocked. He was going to have a surgery within the next 2 hours. And my dad was so calm. You cannot imagine what he did. That slowly but effectively, we were calmer because we watched him not be, excited what's going to happen and screaming. No, he was calmer. He was even though calmer than any day of his life. And what he did was this change to us that allow us to get calmer. And what I want to know, to convey was that one of my sisters, when the nurses came and put on my dad to the bed and directly to the surgery room, the operation room, one of my sisters go with him. And when he got out of the room, when we were all of the family, he got his scared face like this. He was scared of what happened. But what he did was to bring calmness to all of us. And my sister, after the surgery, and not specific at that time, she told us what happened. So I think that as a humane leader, we are allowed to have fear and to have bad emotions, but we could not express those to our team. Maybe search for a mentor, or maybe have a talk with our manager, a human leader manager, not a boss, to let them know about our feelings, and that humane leader will help us.
I couldn't agree more. It really, you know, um, you have to manage your feelings because you'll affect others. And your dad recognized that if he reflected out the fear that he had, it would make everybody feel worse, and it doesn't help anything. It doesn't make the situation any better. It actually does make the situation worse. And your dad had good insight to do the best that he could to manage that in front of everybody. And us as humane leaders, the same thing. You know, if it's a layoff, let's say, you may be extremely nervous. You can't afford to be laid off, but in front of your team, you need to be, you know, confident. Like, look, we're going to get through this. We don't know what the outcome will be. We've all got good skills. We've got good experiences. If we do get let go from the company, there are other jobs out there. It may take us a little while to get them, right? You're being honest. It may take us a little while to get them, but we will get other jobs and we'll carry on and we'll help each other. We'll be references for each other. We'll help each other write resumes. So those are the kinds of actions, even though inside you're really nervous about it. I was always afraid of being laid off until I was, right? You know, it's you just knew it was coming because we had so many layoffs. So you prepare your team and you help them through it. And doing that helps the humane leader prepare for an eventuality that could eventually the crisis can impact them. So I think your dad was a good humane family leader.
He is, and he got well from that surgery, and we talk about this a few years later about this, but he is an amazing human. Well,
excellent. Oh, and it apparently is in your genes then.
Thank you. I'm going to blush. Thank you, sir.
Well, very
Great,
good.
man. Well, with this an interesting topic, and I think we should end this episode.
Absolutely. We'll see you next week. Thanks for those who are listening for tuning in, and we'll talk again soon.